Hi, my name's Justin Paul. I'm the Head of OSS Marketing at Amdocs. My presentation today will be talking about the work we've been doing in small cells and whether that could be used to create a managed service offering, and we feel it can.
Good afternoon. I'm going to speak to you a little bit about small cells, and in the best traditions of presenting, I'm going to attempt to answer my own question. Firstly, what are small cells? They're not, as one of our advertising agencies mistakenly thought, small mobile phones. The dangers of working with Americans and cultural differences. When we looked at the lampposts, we saw lots of iPhones stuck on lampposts. But we are talking about these small public access, small base stations that are rolled out in mobile networks. And to answer why we need them, just look at the figures below. Apologies, guys, it's from an Analysys Mason survey, but the data usage in smartphones is phenomenal. 2016, 892 megabytes of data per month on a smartphone, and I personally wish I only use that much data on my smartphone today. I use a lot more. By 2018, another staggering figure is 3.9 billion people will have smartphones. That's phenomenal. That's half the population of the world, probably a similar number to people who have access to running water, just to put it in context. Phenomenal number, and that has a big impact on networks. So why don't we see these things everywhere? In fact, in London we do see quite a few. Most of the operators are rolled out in the big cities, but there are a number of challenges around these things. The first is operators can't keep up with the pace of change. There's lots of new things, lots of new vendors. It's complex, and there's a lot of tasks involved in rolling these things out. They're different from what they're used to over the last 20, 25 years. They've been great at building tower sites and rooftop sites, and these are beautiful things of beauty, bespoke designs that take months to put in place, and you're suddenly looking at the modern generation's version of a mobile network. It's fire and forget, something that's not there today, 30 minutes later it's on a lamppost and you've moved on to the next one. Volume's the next one. To make them work, you have to roll out thousands of these things, and that means you have hundreds and hundreds of projects running simultaneously. And last but not least, coming back to this cost and this operational issue is, ideally if you want to do it, use small cells, you want to use a much cheaper workforce than you used to use. When I first joined the industry, to commission a base station took 2 highly skilled engineers on a rooftop, probably about 2 days. And now we're looking at the guy who does the Christmas lights, and he's not busy at this time of year, coming along, fixing something up, making a couple of connections and moving on, and maybe doing 8 or 9 of these things a day. So there's a different paradigm, and it's causing problems for operators because it's not how they're used to operating. Some of the issues they see are around the orchestration of projects. There's lots of different departments, lots of different systems, lots of different groups, and it just doesn't enable them to move as quickly and agilely as they'd like to. Again, scale is a problem. You know, most operators had big network rollout teams back in the day when we talked about GSM being the next big thing and then 3G, but those have been scaled down. They don't have the teams, the design organizations to plan and roll these things out in scale. A lot of the systems they have are also not designed to handle agile changes, and small cells are very, very different. If you're rolling out a small cell in a mall, you get to the mall, you might say, actually, I'm not going to put it on that wall there, I'm going to put it on that column over there. And you use a different fixing. And the systems today say, right, you have to go right back to first principles and start the design again. So they're not designed for these in-flight changes. And again, one of the other challenges we've seen when we're working with operators is there's a sort of lack of central single source of truth. There's no central system that everyone links into. And when you've got large numbers of departments, large numbers of users, everything's out of sync, things don't link up, the briefing packs don't get sent to the right people, or the information's incorrect, it hasn't updated and synchronized, and it causes a problem when you're trying to move quickly and agilely. And finally, you have to link the project to the technical design. At the end of the day, it's a network asset, there's frequencies, backhaul, all sorts of things you have to take into account. You can't deal with these things in isolation. They're not lampposts where everything is more or less the same. They are designed to a certain level, they're not bespoke to the same way as the traditional networks, but they use modular designs. So I'm going to talk about a case study. Unfortunately, I can't name the operator, but it's a large Tier 1 American operator, and it's notoriously shy, which is unusual for Texans. But anyway, let's have a look at the business problem. This operator came to us, and they wanted to roll out large numbers of small cells because they had problems with their network quality. And basically, the processes didn't scale. And when we spoke to them, they said, we can't roll out a network to something that doesn't have a zip code. Our tools and processes don't allow us. Everything has to have a zip code. If you've got a zip code, it's great, we can roll it out. But lampposts don't have zip codes. So that was a big problem for them. So they asked us to build them a system that would help them. And they had a number of challenges. So they knew they needed to move a lot faster. They needed to scale 10 times faster than they had before and do things a lot faster than they had as well. They had a huge amount of manual steps in their processes and a lot of what we call swivel chair, where you work from one system, then you move around and you go to another system, you input the data across. They wanted to use partners and third parties, some of this low-skilled labour, but they didn't have the tools to coordinate that and work with those guys. And they had lots and lots of very good tools, but they were all scattered and different and independent. And of course, this meant it was very expensive to roll these things out. They didn't really have the agility to do it, and they were seeing high fallouts, lots of delays, errors, rework. Classic example would be the electrician goes to a site, goes to fit it, it's not AC, it's DC. Wrong fitting, have to go away and come back another day. And of course that has a cost implication. So, wasn't expecting that. So we built them a system. I won't go into the details, but there were three aspects around it. The business insight side of things, where to put these things, where do you optimally roll out a small cell? Because you have to put it in a place where it has the most benefit, where there is an issue with coverage or capacity. You have to have the ability to orchestrate your projects, look at all the different people, all the different programs, and make sure they are coordinated. And lastly, you have to link in this technical design, make sure that your processes allow you to check the feasibility of what you're rolling out. If you require a 100 gigabit fibre connection, can you actually get it to that lamppost? It's actually quite a difficult thing to do, particularly in London, digging up roads, things like that. But you might be able to get a 100 meg Wi-Fi connection or microwave connection to that. So you have to have a level of feasibility in there that cross-checks what you're trying to do from the network point of view to the design side of things. So it's rolled out today, it's working. We're very pleased with the system we've designed and delivered for these guys. They're running around 2,000 concurrent projects today. Typically a project is from 1 to 10 small cells. So a project might be rolling out a small cell program in a mall, something like that. Large numbers of parallel users, so design teams using this in parallel. It's designed for scalability, and it's enabled them to roll out thousands of small cells a month, which is really brings them in line with their strategic objective to roll out thousands of these things across their whole network. In terms of the impact, what we've seen is a big reduction in deployment costs. So up to 35% reduction in the cost of rolling out, the physical cost of rollout. Of course, there are things you can't influence with a project management and design tool. You're still going to have to pay for rental, you're still going to have to pay for power and things like that. But you can take a big chunk out of those deployment costs that we can access. And importantly for the network teams, the design teams and planning teams, who really look at small cells with abject horror because of the volume of work, it reduces significantly the design time. And what we found is the operator tends to build a number of styles or categories of system. So they'll say, we'll have a Huawei base station with a Ceragon microwave, and that'll be option one. And then we'll have something else for an internal indoor base station. And they build those. Once the network design teams have built those, it's very easy for them to replicate those designs time and time again. So you almost take out the requirement for the design team. They refresh and update, but you're building once, reusing many times. So the question I plan to ask is there now an opportunity in the small cell space for offering it as a managed service? We did some research earlier on this year with Real Wireless, and we looked at this because we'd long thought that small cells were really about the MNO market, as you would. But actually we highlighted there are a number of opportunities for outsourcing, managed services and collaboration. And we realised there's a number of new players that can and should be playing in this space. And when we released this research, it was taken up quite widely. I was quite surprised to see this article was released in the Wall Street Journal as something that was very interesting for the MSO community, the cable operators, the internet guys, because they certainly have a part to play. They certainly have an opportunity to collaborate with the network operators who ultimately own the spectrum to roll these things out. They've got the right assets. They've got assets on every street corner. They've got a field force, all the things that support rapid rollout of small cells. And the same for some of the fixed network operators. We've seen a lot of collaboration between fixed operators who deliver backhaul or connectivity to these small cells to work very closely with mobile operators. In addition to that, we've seen people like the tower companies and some of the American ones here, American Towers, guys who traditionally roll out networks. They can see opportunities to take this on as a managed service. It's a whole new network. It's a relatively easy to roll out network, but you need scale. You need lots of people to roll it out quickly. And there's been a lot of interest from these guys to offer small cell as a service, managed services around that. But I think most interestingly, we've seen unusual players, people who you don't normally associate with the telco market, coming into the small cell business and actively looking at it. We've seen municipalities. There's lots of small cities and urban conurbations that have Wi-Fi services, very focused on connectivity, and they have a lot of assets to provide and support small cell rollout. The same with advertising. You've probably all seen the announcements between JCDecaux and lots of different network equipment providers to support small cell rollout. Because again, they have assets on every street corner, they've got a field force that update the digital media, they've got power, they're perfectly placed to leverage this. And again, the same for a lot of the public transport organisations. In fact, I think it's in the public domain, Transport for London have been looking at this area. Again, they have the assets, they have the capabilities to support this. And indeed, a lot of the transportation networks have very, very high bandwidth connectivity that they don't actually do a huge amount with, other than run their day-to-day business, but it's generally not a high bandwidth business. So we're seeing some new players coming into the market. Then I'd like to have a look at some of the outsourcing models or some of the options for outsourcing that we've seen so far. I mean, the first one is around acquisition and leasing. It's actually very difficult to buy a lamppost. It's surprisingly difficult to buy a lamppost. You have to find out who owns them. And sometimes when you do buy them, Westminster City Council being a great one, you design a Wi-Fi network in this instance. They say, that's fantastic, now could we have 2,000 planning applications? Because they don't think in the same way as operators do. So there's an opportunity to acquire and provide these sites to service providers. Another option is to do the network planning and build services. So outsourcing your network design, this capability to consultancies and organisations with expertise in that side of things. We've seen, probably where we've seen the most interest has been backhaul as a service, this collaboration between MSOs, traditional fixed providers, to provide the backhaul, that everything but the last mile connectivity to the small cell. And that's a really good model. The mobile operators do what they do best, and the MSOs and the fixed operators do what they do best, which is providing that high bandwidth connectivity. And it's a good cooperation model. Interestingly, I think Neil's gone now, but you see players like BT who are buying spectrum, and there's a lot of speculation about what they're going to do with that LTE spectrum. Are they going to offer more than just backhaul as a service, which is what their small cell service today is? And then finally, you see this whole small cell as a service model where we envisage providers will go to the extent of building out the networks, building out the networks, probably not owning the assets, but everything but that. And ultimately, the mobile operator is only responsible for the spectrum. They're still the spectrum, they still own the spectrum, but everything up to that point is done as a service. So there are some challenges, I think, as Chris mentioned, around how you manage that. And I think that's probably one of the barriers to more wide-scale adoption of small cells as a service. The first is finding the right partners. They've got to be the right partners for you. There can't be too much conflict of interest. It's interesting, contractual obligations comes up time and time again. And perhaps working with our customers, we're not as advanced as Procter & Gamble, because there's a lot of, where is the contract? Can we get the contract to refer to that? Particularly when you're working with lots of small third parties and outsourcing to a number of small contractors. One of the things we've found is the whole accountability issue. Who is responsible for ensuring the right power supply is available on the lamppost when you roll it out? Because the lawyers can dine out on that for months if you get that wrong. And it really is important you have systems that say right down to who is responsible for providing the brackets that attach that to the lamppost, who is responsible for making sure you have the access, the road is closed when it needs to be closed, etc. If you can't tie those things down, you could have a real nightmare around small cells. And of course, it's very important you can then manage that process. You can see what's going on, where you are in the process. You can make in-flight changes. If you have to change a design midway through, you're able to do that and roll that out across the whole program without people saying, oh, I hadn't got the memo. I was still rolling out the design we had last month. And finally, it's very important, if you are going to manage roll out small cells as a service, the ability to have governance and manage SLAs quite tightly. Maybe if you're not having that full partnership model, but it's really important that you have that capability to manage those SLAs and make sure your network's being rolled out as you would like it to be rolled out. I'm going to skim over this, but we've talked about a number of stages as well of outsourcing, from the consultation and strategy side all the way through to what we're seeing, this full project management and governance. And we're seeing everything in between in terms of small cells, but because the technology's not really been rolled out in huge volumes yet, I think it's early stages. But what we do feel, and we would because this is what we've designed, we do feel there's definitely a need. If you are going to outsource this, and I think there's a big opportunity for outsourcing small cells, small cell rollout, that you need to have the right tools, smarter tools, and the ability to manage your processes in a different way. You've got to de-risk it. You've got to take that ability to, you've got to take human error and project risk out of the equation. You've got to find ways of driving your costs down to roll these things out in an efficient manner. And just to put it in context, the beauty of small cells is they are very, very cheap. You can buy a small cell, a good outdoor small cell is the cost of 4 or 5 smartphones. They're not expensive, But when you put that in context, it costs you probably between £300 and £500 to visit a site. So if you get it wrong, if you're inefficient, you can blow your budget just in site visits, significantly exceed your CapEx budget for small cells by getting your processes wrong. So it's really important you're efficient and agile. And you want to roll these things out quickly. They have a big impact on the network. They have a big impact on quality. And I think we're going to see in the market a big drive for differentiation between the operators on network quality. And small cells are actually a very good and cheap way of improving network quality, particularly in urban areas. So you want to roll them out quickly. You want to get them out there and get people using them. It has a big impact on your network. And finally, you have to be able to have tools and systems that allow you to do that and scale, because you're talking about rapid rollout, thousands and thousands of projects, faster. Typically operators are looking to roll out 4 or 5 times more cells in a small cell program than they have in the networks today. And they're talking about doing it over 3 or 4 years compared to networks that took maybe 20, 25 years to roll out. So massive increase in volume and velocity that they need to have. And that's what you need if you're going to be able to do this effectively. So small cells is an interesting technology. I hope it's going to take off. I think it is. We're seeing some good results. The partner we're working with has had some fantastic results with their small cell network rollout. We see it as a technology, a capability that applies to almost any large-scale network rollout capability. So we're looking at it for macro cells, we're looking at things like carrier Ethernet, anything where you have complex programs and large unit volumes, it's something that can be applied. And what we like about this solution is the ability to help operators manage and outsource their processes but maintain control. So, thank you very much.